Welcome back to the Erectile Dysfunction Radio podcast, where we tackle the facts, debunk the myths, and provide real solutions to help you take control of your sexual health and confidence. I am Mark Goldberg, certified sex therapist and host. For any men who are serious about resolving ED or other sexual challenges, we encourage you to visit our website, eiqmen.com, and use our additional resources, reach out to us with questions, or schedule a 15-minute complimentary call with me or a member of my team. We are passionate about helping men like you, so don't hesitate to reach out. Today, I want to talk about two types of sexual people, two ways of thinking about sexuality, and why these two different ways matter to sexual function and to erections. So the two types of ways of thinking about sex, we're going to call one of them good enough sex and the other expansive sex. So what do these terms mean? So good enough sex generally refers to people who are comfortable with a routine. They like the predictability of sex. They like knowing what is coming down the pike. These are people that generally rely on sexual scripts, and they can have excellent experiences. They can be very enjoyable. They can lead to pleasure and orgasm. And these people tend to not think about, or sometimes are uncomfortable to deviate too far off of the script. Expansive sex generally refers to people who have a more exploratory bend to them. They tend to be, very pleasure focused, but looking to expand and continuously evolve, continuously bring in new elements. This particular way of thinking about sex works well for people who have a need for novelty, people who have a need for psychological engagement. Now, in my experience of working with a lot of individuals and couples, it is quite common that two individuals that get together will be, the term I would use is plotted differently on the spectrum of good enough sex versus expansive sex. What that means is that one partner is generally going to have more of a bend towards expansive sex relative to their partner who would seem to be in a position where they are more open to good enough sex. That does not mean that people cannot come towards each other and that there aren't ways to work with this and evolve, but it's quite a common setup in relationships that people are not finding themselves in the exact same position as their partner.
For too long, men have been told that pills, supplements, and devices are the only way to manage and resolve erectile dysfunction. If you are one of the millions of men who know that their sexual function and overall experience is not just physical, EIQ is here for you. Our one-of-a-kind, self-guided e-course is designed to empower you to jumpstart your process of addressing performance anxiety, building confidence, and enjoying sex again. No gimmicks, no pills, just real solutions for men who want them. Try our course today at erectioniq.com.
Okay, so what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of each of these ways of being sexually? So with good enough sex, some of the benefits are that it is reliable, it is comfortable, it is efficient, it requires less communication. Everybody knows their role. Everybody knows how to execute on that role. And over time, people can get a lot better at working that script over and over and over again, leading to a really smooth experience. Okay? Some of the downsides, though, of a good enough sex approach or a good enough sex model is that things can feel very stale. It can lead to sexual stagnation. It can lead to frustration, boredom, lack of arousal for one or both partners. Okay, so obviously, as we're talking about erections, one of the things I think that's important for our listeners to keep in mind is like asking themselves this question: do I tend to be a good enough sex person? Do I feel more comfortable relying on a routine? Or am I somebody that needs novelty? Am I somebody that thinks more expansively about sex and finds that I'm not getting aroused? So you can already see how a good enough sex structure for somebody who has more of an expansive sex mentality may struggle to be getting enough excitement, enough dopamine hit, enough novelty in their experiences, which could lead to at least situationally based erectile dysfunction. They may struggle to get an erection with a partner if that is the structure of their relationship. Now let's move over and talk a little bit more about expansive sex. So expansive sex generally refers to, again, the curiosity, the playfulness, aspects of it. Now, the advantages of expansive sex are there's novelty, there's ways to explore new things. You can keep sexuality fresh even in longer term relationships to varying degrees. People can experience new things, they can have expansive experiences both psychologically and physiologically. It also can help with emotional connection because oftentimes this does necessitate more communication. Now, that could also be a bit of a double-edged sword in the sense that it could be very, very difficult to get sexual communication around like areas of partnered sexual activity off the ground. It could be awkward, it could be uncomfortable, feelings can get hurt very, very easily. Expansive sex also requires like an ongoing development. It can be frustrating if you are the partner of somebody who has more of an expansive bend to them because it seems like your partner is continuously moving the field goal posts, continuously changing the rules of the game. Understandably, it's their effort to try to feed some of the novelty, keep things fresh, which again can both be a benefit to the relationship, but also can put a lot of pressure on that. So for a man who typically is a good enough sex thinker, is comfortable with that routine, and they have a partner who is more of an expansive thinker when it comes to sex and is pushing for more things, this actually may lead to performance pressure. It could lead to a performance anxiety where in an effort to keep up with a more expansive thinking partner, in an effort to meet their needs, you end up feeling a lot of pressure. And that pressure can manifest as erectile dysfunction. It could also manifest as other sexual function challenges, as well as just generally erode the pleasurable aspects of the experience. So when I'm working with men who are experiencing, sexual dysfunction or sexual function challenges, I should say, this is one of the areas that I have become, I guess, more attuned to and more aware of, that people's arousal patterns, what makes them feel both safe and comfortable, but also what makes them feel more aroused, is really critical for us to be able to understand what is possibly contributing to erection issues, performance pressure, or a lack of enough stimulation. Okay. So what are some things that you as a listener who's trying to work on or improve sexual function, what is something or some of the things that you could do? So number one, I think it's important to assess your sexual pattern. So if you are in a longer term relationship and you've got some like data points or data sets that you've built up, it's easier to do this because you can get much more of a clear picture about what happened. So I think asking like, what position am I in? Do I tend to be the more expansive thinker? Am I feeling bored? Do I feel like I'm not pleasing my partner? Do they want something, or are they asking for things and I just don't know how to get there and I'm feeling pressure? So first and foremost, I think just assessing what your situation is, even for people who are not in a relationship at the moment or in a shorter term relationship. If you have more history, or if you just know things about yourself, if you know where your comforts lie, if you know where your excitation patterns lie, try to just get a sense of like, what is it that I need? And like, am I getting it, right, in this relationship? And what would I need to do to help facilitate something which is either more comfortable or more arousing? Another thing that you can do, another way to think about this, is to not blitz your partner with the dichotomy or the gap between people that I am describing here. I think bringing this up in much more of a collaborative tone and talking more about like positions and talking about how in any relationship there are going to be these different positions, and like my goal is to work together with you to figure out how we can do this in a way that is both satisfying and comfortable and safe, also connecting for the two of us. I would suggest thinking about this in a small changes, not a fundamental change type of way of thinking about this. So if you are, let's say, on the I need more novelty spectrum, not thinking about how do I introduce this in a way that stays safe for my partner, but also, introduces, let's say, some new elements for us. Really important to try to communicate openly and, again, empathically. So we'll just take the novelty position here for a moment. So if you are in need of more novelty and you are going to talk to your partner who tends to be more of a good enough sex and feels comfortable in that space, it's important to communicate your desires openly, but also with the empathic understanding that your partner may be different from you. His or her comfort may lie somewhere else, and that you're not coming to them with a criticism or a critique of who they are or how they show up. It's the recognition that we both show up a little bit differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Lastly, I would say, and I guess this kind of dovetails off of my previous point, which is it really, really is key to engage your partner emotionally, and to make sure that there is some emotional intimacy when going to have these conversations. It really, really is key that your partner understands that this is not a fault of theirs, it's not a character flaw, that this is something that likely was going to happen to you or has happened to you previously in long-term relationships. And this is just a challenge for the two of you to work on over time and to try to move that needle. But it really is about you being able to meet your partner where they are, how they show up, and then being able to meet you. What I think the important takeaway is from reflecting on, am I an expansive person or an expansive thinker when it comes to sexuality, or am I much more of a good enough person or a good enough sex thinker when it comes to the relationship, is if you're experiencing erection challenges, if you're feeling like things are not working, okay, one of the important measures here is, am I feeling performance pressure, which may indicate or point in the direction that I want things which are more comfortable, more predictable. And even if I do want elements of novelty, I want that to happen much more of a contained atmosphere or contained environment. Okay? If you are finding that you're having erection struggles and there seems to be a lack of excitation, you're just not into things anymore, you're not feeling any particular pressure, but you are feeling a sense of boredom, a sense that things are just not going as well as they used to. You might be a little bit more in that expansive camp, and you might be looking for, how do I approach my partner about bringing some novelty to the table, trying something new, and how do I do that in a way which is sensitive to my partner? So for anybody out there who is trying to overcome these challenges, I think adding this question of, am I more of an expansive sexual person or am I more of a good enough sexual person, could be helpful in your journey towards better erections and better overall sexual experiences.